Adam Kokesh. Where the hell are you? Roger. That's his name. Here he comes. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Adam Kokesh.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike. I'm sure you've been doing a wonderful job. Hello, Anarchy in the NYC! Happy 420. You thought I was going to forget, didn't you? Well, I want to give a shout out to the organizers for starting this off. Ian Chiaffi. Let's hear it for Ian, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you might be sitting here having a good time tonight and not fully appreciate the significance of this event and what Ian has done leading up to this. Liberty Fest 1, Liberty Fest 2, Liberty Fest 3, the whole franchise that came out of that. And the one that sells out is the one when he finally puts anarchy in the name. How many of you have been just waiting for this event, waiting for the Liberty Movement to come out and say, yeah, it's about anarchy. Have we not come a long way? Holy crap, look at this movement! And I mean the bigger movement, the freedom movement. I mean, let's be nice and include all of the conservatives that are apologizing for not being libertarian yet. Am I going to keep hearing names like from the back for that one? How about all of the libertarian constitutionalists who are apologizing for not yet being anarchists? Don't you hate it when people who believe in a coercive state call themselves libertarians? It really gives the rest of us a bad name, doesn't it? Well, why are we in New York City? This is the belly of the status peace. This is the least free place on earth. It's like the opposite of Disneyland. New York City. But I gotta say, how many people in the room actually live in New York City? Sorry about that. I really shouldn't talk. I live near the one city in America that's worse. Potomac, or Mordor on the Potomac, Washington, D.C., District of Criminals. But let's break this down for a second. I'm sure it's been said tonight. There's been an incredible host of good speakers. And Ian has done an incredible job putting this together. But like just the idea, anarchy. It doesn't take a PhD to understand it. No rulers, not no rules, right? No rulers. And if that's what we're advocating for, as libertarian, voluntarist, anarcho-capitalists, whatever label you think sticks to you, and for those of you who aren't there yet, you might be in the wrong room, but you're still welcome here. Thank you. If you're not an anarchist yet, and you think that at some level you should have a ruler. You're saying that you want someone to be in charge of you. I think they have a term for that. They use it a lot in prison. What do they? Oh yeah, you're somebody's bitch. You haven't figured this out yet? And now, I hate to say this. In the wake of the Boston tragedy, when so many people are coming out waving the flag, people died, we have to wave the flag. Patriotism is for bitches. It shouldn't be that hard to come out and say that in 2013, thank you very much. And the thing in Boston, it burst a lot of people's bubbles, It really, for all the people that were just totally, just not paying attention, totally checked out, that got their head fully embedded in their fifth point of contact, for them, it was like, oh my God, I could die at any time! And you have to be like, if you think that the Boston Massacre is a big deal, and you never once came out and protested a war or took a stand against the police state, go fuck yourself, you patriotic, myopic little bitch. Self-centered piece of crap. Willing servant of the elite. Willing subservient to government. And you know what? It's really sad that we see it this way. And you know, when I say go fuck yourself to those people, I don't mean it in a bad way, really. No, I'm not. If you are so emotionally, whatever, that you see 3 people die and you go, the mainstream media told me to cry, I need to wave a flag now. You probably should go masturbate some more. There's something wrong with you that needs to be worked out. Start with masturbation, work your way up to therapy. You'll get there. You'll get there. But what is it? You see, what is this about a tragedy like this? You have to feel what the mainstream media tells you to feel. You have to feel the way the president does. And Obama says, yes, we will rise and fall as one nation. Well, you fat bastards better stay out of my life, the rest of this country. I do not want to rise or fall with Obama and the rest of his minions. We're going to rise and fall as one. Well, the more we stay together, the more we try to collectivize this country. Did I say we? Damn it. There you go. Blink. Put a Bitcoin in the collectivist language jar. Virtual Bitcoin. You know, I was driving back from Philly to get here from Smokedown Prohibition 4. Yeah. And it's really beautiful if you stand up in civil disobedience and smoke marijuana in public by yourself, you could get beat up. If you do it with a few hundred people, the cops are afraid of you. I'm really lucky, most cops are afraid of me already. On the way here, we heard like a terrorism alert message, and I wrote the number down in case any of you see an unattended backpack in here anywhere. 888-TIPS-NJP, yes, call the police, because people suffer, therefore you need the authorities in your life. And you know, in this reaction to the Boston Marathon bombing, and I don't mean to belittle the reality of the tragedy that represents, but to put it in perspective for all of the people that go, oh my god, it's a big deal. 55 people died in bombings in Baghdad that day. That exact day. And you didn't see it on the news because they only want to show you white people that were blown up. What did they do to the one Saudi who was the victim of the bombing in Boston? Oh, he's a suspect. He is a person of interest. We're going to go to the hospital and, I don't know what, handcuff him to a hospital bed and then go search his apartment while he's not there? Jesus. But what you see, what is revealed, to those of you who are able to hear this, most Americans, they hear this and be like, oh my God, they go crying back to their politicians, right? For those of you that are able to appreciate this perspective, what do you see from the Boston bombing? You know what I see? I see a cage around the shrink-wrapped with the flag brain of every American who thinks that patriotism is more important than justice, that being a part of the collective is more important than being an individual, that being subservient to government is more important than liberty. And that is the psychological cage that is revealed, that is what you see when something like this happens. And you know that because you know better, you are disgusted by the national conversation. But we are bound to our dear leader. That's what they want. That's why Obama has to go on television after Sandy Hook and pretend to cry. And just pretend like hundreds of children killed by drone strikes don't even exist. Don't see them on the television. No, we're not going to mention that. And they prey off your insecurity. And that's what it is. When something bad happens, you're frightened. And when you run into this, as advocates of liberty, you know what I'm talking about when you run into statists. There's a resistance, there's a reluctance. It's not about reason. It's not about logic. No one studied philosophy and then was like, oh yeah, and now I'm gonna go vote for Mitt motherfucking Romney. Yeah. It doesn't happen, people. All right, nobody comes to that conclusion through a rational examination of the facts. It's out of emotional insecurity. And when you run up against this, you get down to the last argument, right? You know what I'm talking about? You're talking to someone who's a statist, and you get down to it, and it's like, you know, right before you get, but who will build the roads? You know, right before you get that one, it's like, oh, well, you get all of these things, you sort of gloss over it. And when you do this, I want people here to understand what that is. It's a kind of psychological avoidance. I'm afraid to face up to the fact that I'm a little bitch, that I'm subservient to government. Therefore, we need government, and our politicians are good and looking out for us and totally righteous. Yes, absolutely. Don't fall for that. And by the way, who's going to build the roads? Maybe people that have an interest in traffic. Is it that hard to imagine that like oil and gas companies would actually work to build the roads instead of, you know, we buy gas and the government takes it apart? Why not just like cut off the middleman and have someone with an incentive for, you know, having people have roads that actually work? The real question should be, without government, who's going to fuck up the roads? On the way over here, we passed like billions of dollars, I'm sure literally like billions of dollars of road equipment sitting idle. Gas stations are open. Free market versus government. Really not that hard to figure out, people. But the answer, you know, philosophically is really simple. Like I said, anarchy is not that hard to understand. No rulers. Anytime you say we need government, you're saying we can't figure out how to do this peacefully. Who's going to build the roads? People. People acting peacefully. People without money that needed guns pointed at people's heads in order to collect it. How about that? Is that really so hard to imagine? If you can see that, and you see how long we've been in this statist mentality, it's more like, how the hell did we survive this long without blowing each other up? Woo! Did you guys hear North Korea just nuked Japan, according to one Japanese official? That was buried in the way the headline was written. You might not have caught that. You might have just have heard that. I'm just kidding. North Korea has not nuked Japan. Calm down. Got really quiet in here. That's the one thing we take seriously, right? That's good. That's good. You guys have a good sense of perspective. I really appreciate that. But they say that we need government. They impose this requirement that if we don't have this monopoly, you know, we won't be safe. We won't have national security. We won't have any possibility of justice. And they want you to think the government's supposed to be your parent. And this is the thing. If you're asking, like, you know, who should government allow to marry? How much should taxes be? Who should we elect to be our leader? You're not seeing the real ripoff behind government. You're not seeing the real exploitation that it represents. And you get to, when you grasp that and when you see that, I mean, you can talk to people and say, your lack of desire for liberty is a threat to me, because I'm getting ripped off because of your willingness to be somebody's bitch. And now you can say to every liberal and conservative in America, or moderate, or centrist, or anybody who's not an anarchist yet, if you're so afraid of freedom, why don't you move to North Korea and get the hell out of my America, or at least out of my face. So the point I want to make here, I think to bring it home, is that this is not a fight. This is not a struggle. You have to step back and see a bigger picture than this. The only point at which you get to the bottom of the rabbit hole is when you realize that there's no bottom. And the only point at which you reach anything remotely resembling enlightenment is when you realize that any human concept of enlightenment is impossible. And what we are experiencing right now, what we are so fortunate enough to be a part of, that Anarchy in the NYC, as the tip of the spear of the freedom movement right here, at least in a certain intellectual PR sense, I can appreciate this. It's an evolutionary process. We're like the mutants in the X-Men, right? The only difference is that we get to make everybody else a mutant too. And it's happening. It's happening. And if you really step back, and maybe it's just going to take a little leap of faith from you on this part, but I wouldn't ask anybody to take any kind of leaps of faith not grounded in your own logic and reason, faith in your own mind, your own deductive powers. But technology is coming to this point in human history where we can see it going vertical. It's hitting what I can only describe as the asymptote of human existence. You know, as we see all of these incredibly important dynamics of the human experience on exponential curves going vertical, and I hear you say, oh, Adam, exponential growth curves don't go vertical. Duh. They don't hit asymptotes. How many of you are actually going to say that? Come on. Come on. This is a libertarian gathering, isn't it? All right. So, well, now you can tell me where on the planet the fastest computer is. What happens when we have when we get past the singularity, whatever arbitrary point that is, and we have computers designing faster computers. And you see where this is going. I mean, even just right now with the 3D printer revolution, you want to ban large capacity magazines? You want to ban assault rifles? You want to spend billions of dollars pissing into a hole in the ground? I'm going to buy a 3D printer and say, sorry, suckers. That's what we're coming to. The idea of government itself, because it is in the nature of the entropy of energy at the core of life itself, is for greater cooperation. Government is going to become obsolete because coercion is simply inferior to persuasion. And when you see it on this bigger scale, you're able to see what we're coming to. You don't have to fight for anything. You get to. This is coming like a force of nature. That warm breeze of technology that you're starting to feel now, that's for the first time, oh crap, I can't keep up with new smartphones. You're like scratching the surface of what in our lifetimes is about to go from a warm breeze to a hurricane that's just going to keep going and never, ever, ever stop. This is what humanity is on the brink of. We're the ones that get to look forward from this perspective, and we get to see this. And while you might not get to determine the fate of humanity, I mean, how arrogant and statist does that presume to be, right? We're gonna impose a plan. I know, we're the libertarian answer. We're gonna take over the world and leave everyone alone. No, you're not even gonna get that chance. The idea of liberty is going to be like hygiene. It's just sort of like, yeah, you know, like, who was the first person that invented the toothbrush? You don't even think about it. That's what we're coming to. The ideals of liberty that we're so excited about now are about to become the status quo. And then, in a blink of another eye, it'll be ancient history. So what do you get to do? You get to shape the face of this. You get to experience this. You get to live from this broader perspective. You get to free yourself from all of the psychological cages that the government wants to impose on you and instead live free now. Thank you very much. I understand I have 30 minutes for questions.